Yes. Morning, fish keepers. Cam here from the fishroom.co.nz. Done it again. We've made it through to another Friday. Let's be happy with coffee. Good. Very hot, but good. Okay, so today we've got a special guest with us. We're going to be talking about all things live food. Before we go too much further, just a quick reminder, we're now open on Saturdays in the physical shop, 10 till 3 here in Kotua Place. Also, because of all the devastation that's happened in the North Island throughout this week, there has been lots of shipping delays coming in, lots of delays going out, things like live fish, plants, live foods, all that kind of stuff. We've just held everything back until everything's clear. There's at least 4 regions in the North Island that the couriers have said do not send anything to. We can't handle anything going into it. So basically, I'm just playing it day by day, where I can send stuff, how I can send stuff. But the first and foremost priority is making sure that all, in particular live fish, but anything live that we're sending will arrive in tip-top condition. So we're holding that kind of stuff back. So that's where we're at with that. And for the people that are or have been hit by the cyclones, everyone is thinking of you. If there's anything that I can do from down this end, please shout out, let me know. And if we can do something, we'll do something for you. So we'll see how we go. Other than that, let's get on to what we've got going on today. So we'll bring John up. Good morning, John.
Hello.
And we'll bring our special guest, Shelly. Good morning, Shelly.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. It's much appreciated. Cool. So, as I said before, today we're going to be talking about live foods and various live food cultures. But before we get into that, I just quickly want to ask, how did you get into fish keeping?
Me? Like literally
You're
when I was 9, when I was 9, the neighbours were selling a fish tank and was cheap because like we're in a tiny little village and nobody else had fish, and like I begged for it for my birthday, and like and being in the middle of nowhere, there was like no access to any fish except if you were traveling like to Rotorua like 50 or 60 miles to the nearest pet shop, and there was no Google. So here's this little 9-year-old cutting along this big fish encyclopedia, madly looking up the fish in the fish book. And it just went from there.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. So, obviously, today's topic is live foods. So, I know you've prepared a few live foods for us to have a look at. We're going to talk about. So, one that I think a lot of people are really interested in at the moment is blackworms. I think this, because they're a really good food source to be feeding, but also they're not commercially available, so they can be quite hard to get hold of. So, shall we start with blackworms?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess blackworms would be classed as like the fish keepers, fish breeders' gold standard food. They are very high in protein. Everything, there's not a single thing I know that won't take blackworms. They are great for growing fish on, but they're brilliant for bringing stock into breeding condition. And also on top of that, really good for things like beta that tend to get like gut bound with like prepared. So, you know, you are better to feed things like your betas live food. They do a bit better on that. So just with my blackworms, I have them in actual fish bins out the back along this, and they're just a little deadly and because they tend to like to actually sit in that top part of the water, and I just let them go. They just tune out there every single day of the year. They're not covered. We get rain, we get snow, we get whatever, and they just sit out there. And then I just go out and harvest when I want. The trick is like sort of fresh over them too much. I think people fuss and then do too much and destroy their cultures.
Yeah.
The best way is to just let them, the best food for them.
I think we're having a bit of connection problems.
Yeah. Are you having connection issues as well?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I thought it might have been me, but maybe not.
Yeah.
No.
You
still with us,
hear us,
Shelly?
Tom?
No. Yes. No.
Well, maybe try a different area of the house. Maybe might help.
Yes. Are you with us still, Shelly? Are you all gone now? We've got moving.
Can you hear us?
Disastrous. No, this is far from ideal.
I know.
Okay, well, let's try this.
Can you hear us, Shelly?
No, having issues here, so seems like Shelly might have completely dropped off, but not dropped off altogether.
Right, okay. Well,
I'll send her a message, but if she's using her phone, she's probably not going to be able to read that either.
yeah.
All right, she's dropped off at the back end. Yeah, I agree, Cam. Computers do suck. And she's back. You back? Not quite. No. I'm not sure how well this is going to work today. Oh no. Disastrous. This is all set to be an absolute banger as well.
I know. Not to worry, because if it doesn't work this week, we'll get it back on another week. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
Oh,
blackworms is everybody's most coveted food, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure we're going to win this one at the moment. Yeah, blackworms are one that a lot of people are really keen on. As Shelly was alluding to, very much so for spawning and growing out, but in particular for spawning.
Yeah, and you guys do struggle getting them over there, don't you?
Commercially. Yeah.
That's why this was going to be such an important chat. But yeah.
Just sending her a message now and see how we go. So she said she's not able to hear us either. So yeah. So that might be a weird issue. So I've just asked her to see if she can connect onto a computer as opposed to a phone and see if that makes any difference. May or may not work. We'll find out. And my thoughts on freeze-dried blackworms, I am a fan. A, because they're readily available. B, because fish take them. Two very important things. From my understanding, most things that are freeze-dried don't lose a lot of the nutrition. They go pretty well, and yeah, I quite liked the trial that I had with them. Everything took them really, really conveniently, really easily. Obviously, freeze-dried, you lose the wiggling aspect, the hunting aspect, and for the fish that really want that movement, that jiggle and that wiggle to get them going, then you're going to lose that. But yeah, that was definitely the only downside that I really found when I was playing around with the freeze-dried stuff.
Mm-hmm. So something that on appearance level, tube effects, is that something you guys get over there? It looks Like a really, really skinny blackworm?
Yeah, freeze dried Tubifix we can get. I'm uncertain if we get frozen Tubifix. I don't think I've seen it, but not live stuff at all. So yeah, we're pretty limited in lots of stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
It's down to that as well. There's a few farms that deal with live fish food. Mainly they're doing bird food and reptile food, but the fish food is a sort of side for it. But none of them seem to worry about things like blackworms or daphnias and things like that, unfortunately, because I just suspect that their market isn't, either it's too hard for them or their market isn't big enough for them to worry about it, is the kind of theory that I've worked on. So yeah.
Yeah. To kind of commercially farm it would take up a lot of space and
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah, very
time.
much.
Not necessarily money going into it, but a lot of time just making sure it's there for, it's not an expensive food either, which kind of doesn't really balance out, does it?
Yeah. There you go. Cam was saying that John, who is one of our suppliers, Sarah, Ocean Nutrition, Frozen Foods, River Revolution, a couple other bits and pieces, has the frozen Tubifix stuff. So it must have been the last time we went to order from him. He didn't have any, because otherwise I would have got some. In fact, now you say that, I vaguely remember trying to order it and saying he was out of stock of it. So yeah, cool. Yeah, it'd be good if someone really took on the role of producing some live food in a commercial point. It'd be nice if we could have that around and available in fish shops and pet shops for people to feed their fish from. So yeah. Mm. It's definitely a full-time commitment for it. So I think you've kind of got to be in that industry. You know, if you're a full-time plant grower, that's your thing. If you're a full-time fish breeder, that's your thing. And I think it's the same with the live food. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it full intentions. If you're going to try and supply everybody in the market with it, yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
And I've got a feeling that when we get our live food going well, we'll be able to supply our clients quite easily, or our customer base really easy. But expanding that, I think you really need to put the time into it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you guys get bloodworm in your ponds?
We get mosquito larvae.
Yeah.
I think every now and then you'll see like the real red bloodwormy things that aren't mosquito larvae.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I haven't hang out in the pond in the filters, don't they?
Yeah, I haven't done anything outside for a little while now. Everything I've had outside's had fish in it, so so I never really get anything producing. But yeah, I do vaguely remember when I did have outside live food cultures, you get the odd ones here and there, but it was mainly the mosquito larvae, and definitely that would come through. So yeah. There you go. Yeah, Brian gets them through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they come through.
Good.
Yeah.
I was cleaning out a pond springtime last year, and I couldn't believe the amount that was in this filter. I'd never come across them before.
Oh wow!
I just thought if it was a normal thing or not, but yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Cool. So this afternoon, or tomorrow, we'd actually had a blog all sorted out. We're going to kind of match it with this live video we were doing with Shelly, talking about all these live foods, and we've got a blog to come out with it. Unfortunately, we're having issues with Shelly, so we're probably not going to be able to have this proper conversation potentially today. We might do it another time. So I might hold off on that blog that was going to go out so we can match them together at the same time. So I'll have to quickly get my mind thinking and see what we can write about today, and get some content out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As for the production of the insects and bugs and stuff here, Vinegreal is going absolutely fine. I'm having significant issues with Daphnia. It's all died off. I think it's just gotten too hot in here, and it's just caused it to go the wrong way around. White worms have all gone fine since I put them in the fridge. The things that are out of the fridge, not so well. Again, I think it's the same thing. I think it's the heat is just kicking our ass. Um, so yeah, I think the heat's causing issues there. What else are we playing around with? Daphne's gone. Microworms are going okay. Again, looks like they've kind of slowed down again, and I'm fairly certain it's the heat. So I think moving forward, I'll need to work out some sort of colder area for continue to keep them. Once the room gets closed in, it's going to be a lot more warmer. Once we get more tanks, it's going to be really warm, so it might be too much for live food. So yeah, we've got to try and keep them cooled. I'm sure a lot of people have issues at this time of the year when it gets a bit warmer of it. Not doing its thing properly. So yeah. No, I don't do earthworms. I was buying them off a wholesaler, but I don't do them anymore. I don't sell anymore. On the theory that most of the fish that we sell are smaller microfish, nanofish, small community fish, and earthworms will be too big for them, so we don't bother with earthworms anymore.
Or vinegar worms.
Vinegar eels.
Sorry, vinegar eels, yeah.
Yep, vinegar eels. Yep, they're going fine. Got plenty of them. They're nice and sustainable, nice and easy going as well. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So yep, Shelly's in the chat, working on it. Take your time. If you can make it work, you can make it work. If you can't make it work, well, it is what it is. We can try again another day. Vinegar eels are very much self-sorting, and they are easiest to keep going. It's a nice, handy little culture that almost impossible to kill, which is good.
Other than the worms, what other kind of live foods do you get? Apart from
over here?
Yeah. Is there any other insect types? Brine shrimp. Obviously, you don't get that live in the wild.
Yeah. So the live ones we can get, but we don't stock. Crickets, mealworms, locusts, cockroaches. I think that's it as far as available live insects go, of the bigger variety, and then white worms, worms, and that's pretty much it from that supplier. We are relatively limited on live foods all the way around. Fruit flies were another one. Wingless fruit flies, could get those cultures as well. I think that's about it that was available to be purchased from the commercial live food supplier. And then everyone is pretty much relying on, for the best part, hobbyists moving things about the place and stuff like that. So very, very limited. I think there's only one or maybe two. Definitely one that I can think of, but I think there might be a second person that's doing just small amounts of insects, but it's not massively massive. Nice. Cool. Beneath of something, it seems pretty weird, but moths would be flies, house flies, and blowflies are also available from that supplier. We've got people do moths and stuff like that. Frogs are pretty crazy with them, and there is some fish like that would absolutely enjoy some live moths and stuff. Oh, we've got Shelly back.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how we go here. You back?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay.
Oh, well, we changed our internet plan, and we're kind of like between plans at the moment, and the Wi-Fi's a little bit dodgy until they sort of like change us over, but I don't know. It's very weird.
Cool.
So can you hear me now?
So,
yeah,
we can hear you.
Although Cam, you're sounding a bit funny.
The sound is still a bit funny.
On Cam, you sound quite distorted when you talk.
Huh, that's interesting.
Oh
That's not
yeah.
ideal.
Yeah, you sounded a little bit fuzzy.
Oh, the whole time or just recently?
Just recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, massive technical issues today. What a fight.
Yeah, sadly.
Is that better?
Swap sides.
Okay, so
Right. I think
Black
we're
Widow.
more stable now, actually.
Cool.
Right.
Do you want me to go from the top?
Yeah,
Did you
let's
hear
go
any-
Yeah,
next
go
up.
for it.
I know
Okay,
we're talking
so
about Black Widow.
We were doing blackworms, weren't we? So like literally, I'm gonna put them in here actually to pull them up to them. So blackworms, they are your gold standard for feeding your fish. Everything will take blackworms. They love it. They're high in protein. They're just great for feeding, conditioning. Anything that's really picky, doesn't want to take any kind of food, will take the live blackworms. Put them up in here. Possibly not the best, but actually, let's see.
They're an aquatic worm, aren't they?
Yeah, so they actually grow in, I keep them in bins. Actually, that might be a better. Keep them in,
Yeah,
I keep them in fish bins along my back side fence, and they get the full sun and they get all the weather. Literally, it's just some dead leaves in the bottom, some water in the top, duckweed, azolla, just floating because they tend to like to hang around near the top. And for food, as normally I will just throw in some leaves or anything that unfortunately doesn't make it in the fish room. They like dead things, the blackworms. And they thrive on decomposing biological matter. So whether that's vegetation, or some people feed them mince or liver or chicken, little bits, but you've got to be careful you don't blow your culture out with that, because you can get an ammonia spike if you overfeed.
Maintenance-wise, do you have to do any water changes on them, anything like that? If you're putting in the high protein things like that?
Literally, I don't. I just dump them. I just leave them sitting in the back in the fish bins, and they just do their thing. They just tick over. And like when it starts to actually get down, then I will pull some water from the fish room and top them up with the water from the fish room.
Do you find any difference in temperature throughout the year, winter to summer, that sort of thing? Are they a preference?
Yeah, so like literally over the winter they do slow down. That's like pretty much with anything that's outside, it does slow down. They still truck over, just not as much. Don't have as much problem with them maybe blowing out as you would in the winter time though, because the temperatures are cooler. I have grown them in tanks before, so that actually does work. As long as there's nothing in the tank, because of course they are magically delicious. So if we have them in a tank with anything, they are not going to grow because the fish are going to eat them.
Do you know how they reproduce?
Yes, so they actually split and divide. So the theory behind that is if you keep them in a sharp gravel base, they will actually split and divide a little bit easier. But they split, they divide like that, and then you get more worms just like that from division. Right. Where did you want to go? Yeah.
Do you have starters, or do they just appear, or how do you need a culture to start with, or what?
So these actually just wound up appearing in my fish bin. No idea how they wound up appearing in my fish bin. Generally, with a lot of these cultures, they will start on their own. There are methods for actually culturing them, but the easiest way is to get your starter with any of your live foods is to get your starter.
Yeah. I know the person that I buy my duckweed from, who is going your way. Often the duckweed comes with blackworm rolling through it as well. So he grows everything outdoor ponds, oxygen weed, duckweed. Basically, he's a pond guy. That's what he does. So a lot of the duckweed does come with the blackworms free with it as well.
Pretty much you've got to have that duckweed or a zola to be able to culture the black worms.
Yeah.
That's where they reside, in that top part of the water where the weed is. So if you don't have that, you're probably not going to be able to culture them outside. They will culture in the gravel inside in an internal tank, and they look quite different. They kind of like fan up, like you get like little clumps fanned up from the base. So they do grow from the base and from the gravel inside, but they in nature outside, they grow in the plant matter at the top.
Okay. So should we move along to our next thing?
Right. Well, so we're doing I guess the bigger stuff first. So let's chuck some of this in here. See if I can get this up near the mic here. Right, these are your white worms in here. And they are a terrestrial worm instead of an aquatic one. Again, they do have the benefits of live food, but they have a lot more fat in them than the black worms do. So the black worms have a lot more protein, but the white worms probably are a lot easier to culture, and a lot easier to harvest too, because they boil on the top of the soil and you can kind of like pick them off and feed them to the fish.
Mm-hmm. I think Cam's just trying to fix his sound issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are really easy. These guys here, they're really easy to culture. Literally, it's just like literally mine are in a bucket, and they just covered with a bit of wood just to stop the weather and the sun from getting in. The soil's just kept damp, and a little bit of damp bread goes on them. Just to feed them. You can feed them with a little bit of damp cat biscuits as well. They'll actually appear if you've got a compost bin, anything that's high in nitrogen. These guys will just pop up of their own accord. That's quite handy. But again, with all your starter cultures, you're better to just like literally get a starter. It's just easier, quicker to get it burning away.
Yep.
We have.
How often would you feed white worms?
So I feed them as soon as the bread disappears.
Right. Okay.
So I pop the bread on the top. When the bread looks like it's going down, I slap another bread on the top.
Okay.
So you just do plain damp bread. You don't have any cultures going in with that, yogurts or
No,
yeast or
you can gut load by adding different types of food depending on if you want to add more nutritional content. But I just keep the worms ticking along. The bread keeps them quite happy. A little bit of cat biscuits keeps them quite happy. So they're one of the easiest things to actually culture.
Yeah. And what would you feed them to? Are you using them as conditioning food, or using them as like an everyday food, or a fry food, or when are you wanting to go with them? A treat?
So I mix these guys with my frozen bloods, and I feed them to my discus.
Okay.
Because the bloods give that higher protein, and then this gives them the fat content as well.
Okay.
And also it triggers the feeding behaviors too. There's a lot of fish in particular that are triggered by live foods, and I breed axolotls. So I have a lot of live food cultures because that's all I'll take when they first hatch. So the infant axolotls will take these as well.
Cool. Do you sort of grade out the size before you're feeding the smaller fish, or do you just throw them all in and away you go?
I literally just throw them all in, and anything that's left over, I scoop out and feed to something bigger.
Okay, cool. How long do they last under the water for once they've gone on? Because obviously they're not an aquatic worm, so they won't last too long. But
Aren't an aquatic worm, but like literally, I've dropped stuff in my bucket and gone back, and 3 days later they're still wriggling. And in saying that, I've had stuff that I've dropped into the tank, and it's pretty much drowned within sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. So it's quite variable, and I do believe it's temperature based. So if the water's cooler, they tend to like kick around that quite a bit longer, but they tend to like drown quite quickly in the tropical temperatures.
Oh,
I wonder if they cook in the tropical temperatures.
Yeah, that's what I'm picking. They just, not that they last very long anyway. They normally just woof.
Yeah. Oh, we're frozen again. Uh-oh.
Oh, it's one of those days.
No. Oh, it is one of those days.
Weekly Friday.
It must be Friday. Is my audio improved, or is that still average as well?
Your audio's back to normal now.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent you a little video. I've sent you a video so you can hear it afterwards, just to see how bad it was.
Yeah. We can't. Clearly, all three of us can't be going perfectly all at the same time today.
No.
But
Pleasure.
Yeah. What a shame. What an absolute shame. We'll see if Shelly has any issues there. I think Amy gets better there. I think it just might be one of those days, and we're just not going to be able to be successful on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we can't win them all.
No, it's a shame, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we did have three other bugs, insects, critters, whatever you want to call them, to be talking about as well. We were going to talk about microworms, vinegar eels, and Daphnia as well. So we did have a few more lined up, which is a bit unfortunate because, this was going quite nicely and be very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's Cam's right, buckwheat.
That is Cam, isn't it?
Yeah, it could only be Cam.
Yeah, just it's coming up with Facebook user for me because he doesn't want to.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, he doesn't want to sign up on the Aquarium Frenzy page.
What's he like?
What's your favourite fish at the moment, buddy? Stacey would like to know.
I'm loving pea puffers right now. That's what's in this tank here. There, pea puffers. I've got a family of 6 of them. And I'm keeping them alive on blackworms that I top up weekly. I've had them before a couple of times, and I've always had them, and I thought, they're cute, and then I've moved on to something else. But I've only got one tank, and that's all I've got, and I'm loving them. I'm really enjoying them.
So you're down to one tank
at the moment. Yeah, I've got my daughter's guppy tank upstairs.
Yeah.
But I've got one tank there. I'm maybe going to get one there, and I'm going to have my terrarium here. But for now, you can see it's a shared space, so I'm kind of just pushing slowly.
Once it's in there and full of water, it's pretty hard to move.
Yeah, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to get permission.
101%. It's not what you should be saying out loud and on a public forum, though.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so
I love the names. Sorry, Stacey's just sharing the names of her ones. Sushi, miso, ramen. That's really cool names.
Shelly just sent me a message saying, she's off again. We'll have to give this a go another time when they've got the internet sorted out again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So so I guess then we can talk about upcoming guests over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I can't remember them off the top of my head. I've just segued into a whole conversation that I've gone completely blank. Good times. Can you remember who we've got coming up for the next two?
Yes, I do. I've got it down somewhere. So let's give it 1 second.
Cool.
I don't want to say in case we get it wrong, but right. This is where I find
good while it lasted, Brian. We'll definitely reschedule her once they've got their internet sorted out and picked this topic up for sure. It was, very informative, and I think we were going to get some pretty good bits of information and helpful information for everybody moving forward. We might even, once they get their internet sorted, make a sort of a special morning on a Friday morning, as opposed to like being every second week. We might just slot one right in the middle between two guests and just have 3 in a row sort of thing, just to pick up where we were and we'll start again. So I think
definitely. Well, back on the 3rd of March, we have Rebecca Bentley.
Correct. Yep.
From the UK, and she is going to talk about all our amazing knowledge and scientific information that she's got.
So
probably leaning towards catfish and playgrounds.
Yeah. So if you're an L number fan or a catfish fan, that'll be one for you in 2 weeks' time. A PhD student. I don't want to talk out of turn, but I believe her PhD topic is on feeding L number plecos, or what they eat in the wild, or something along those lines. So if you're gonna if you're into that sort of thing, it'll be well and truly worthwhile. So yeah, 2 weeks, and then who else we got coming up?
Chris Lookout.
Yep, cool. So
I never pronounced his surname properly. I hope that's correct. I don't want to upset or offend anybody, but yeah, Chris Lookout. He has an amazing career, focusing on underwater photography. More recently, he's well known in Europe for shrimps, freshwater shrimps. Used to be called the Shrimp Hunter, which is quite cool. His photography is phenomenal. He does a lot of the Sulawesi shrimps and unusual crayfish and that kind of thing.
Cool.
So interesting.
Yeah, I've got one of his books behind me somewhere, still in plastic. I still haven't opened up yet. Just haven't had a chance to have a look through. So I'm not quite sure where that topic will run, because obviously we don't have shrimp over here. But he has done a lot of underwater photography and does a lot of stuff to do with plants and riverways. So we'll see how that kind of works. But we'll see.
I mean, more recently, to be honest, his content has been fish-based and aquatic plant-based. He does a lot of underwater short videos in Germany, some freshwater streams and rivers in Germany. So, there used to be in a German rock band as well. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
he was a bass guitarist.
Yeah. So that's our next 2 of guests up and coming, and that pushes up to the end of March, which I'm going to be away for, and I'm hoping, I've got my fingers crossed very tightly, we can have a wee special event going on for that week, the 31st, when I'm away. But we'll see how we go. Someone said when we get some in-person guests, when somebody wants to come and sit and have a coffee with me right beside me, I'm more than happy to have them on as an in-person guest. So I don't know if that's Cam or if that's Jamie, because Jamie is often a Facebook user as well. So that'll happen when someone wants to come and have a coffee with me. Nelson's a little bit small, for lack of a better term. So the success rate of asking people to come on and then getting turned down is relatively high. It's all Cam, quite high. That wasn't quite the right term. The amount of people I've asked to come on and then said no to is relatively high. So condense that number into a small area when there's even less hobbyists, and then trying to get someone to come on live in person is it's small. But if someone wants to come and sit with me, we're all good. I'm getting confused here. Okay, so we'll bring this one up here. So if you're watching this stream on the Aquarium Frenzy Facebook page, you need to basically register so it brings up your name in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on the Fish Room Facebook page, it automatically does it. So I know Cam often watches on the Aquarium Frenzy one, and so does Jamie, and by the look of it, so does Maxie today as well. So yeah, if you're on the Aquarium Frenzy Facebook page, you need to register somewhere along the line so you get your name up on this.
Mm-hmm.
Just the Facebook connection to the software we use doesn't quite connect on the Facebook pages, but for the fish room page and the YouTube page, YouTube channel, it automatically does it straight away. So that's why often people come up with Facebook users, and I'm not quite sure who's talking. And like I know that Jamie, Maxie, and Cam often go on there. I know there's a couple of guys from the UK that come on there as well that come up with Facebook users. So it just makes it a little bit difficult sometimes. And I agree with whoever said computers are stupid. They are absolutely stupid. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's fairly easy to do. I think from memory, when the stream comes up, you can click on it and just click register, and you pushes your name, and or something very simple to that if you are watching on the Aquarium Frenzy page. Yeah. So yeah, nice and simple. So clearly, our topic is blown for the day, and I don't really have much more to talk about. Anybody want to bring up a topic we can talk about, or are we all just happy to cruise through into the weekend, or what's going on?
Talk about your new delivery that you got today that you were showing me. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, do you know what I did? I moved it. Like, it was right there. And I was like, I'm going to move this because I'm going to keep looking at it all day long. Go, man, this is really cool while I'm talking to someone. It's just going to distract me. So I've moved it. Well, I can't show, but next week I will. Next week I'll bring in some props of some of the cool stuff we've got. So we'll make next week a bit of loose and fast sort of stuff. I will not talk about that because I'm not talking about that. The growing cost of fish keeping in New Zealand worry me. What angle do you want me to answer that in? From like a hobbyist perspective, or a business perspective, or just a general I live in New Zealand perspective? I guess there's a few ways to go with that. So as a hobbyist, I look at things in like a long-term value. So I had someone come and buy a light bulb for the frogs off me the other day. And it was $45 or something along those lines. And his first comment was, that's really expensive. And then I said, well, for $45, you're getting this light bulb that's going to last you about a year because it was a UVB. So you're spending less than $1 a week to keep your frogs healthy and live, and away they go. As a hobby, cool, we do that. So this initial cost of $45 is costing you less than $1 a week to keep your frogs healthy the way you need it. So you're likening that for like a dog lead, for example, which is, I don't know the price, and how often they go through, but it's the same sort of thing. It's going to keep your dog healthy and able to walk them for that sort of period of time. So I kind of broke it down that way. So when I'm buying stuff as a hobbyist or of any sort of description, I go, sweet, so this is going to cost me $400, but I'm going to get 6, 7, 8 years out of it before it breaks, or potentially whatever. It's got 3 years warranty, all that kind of stuff. So over that period of time, it actually isn't that expensive for the amount of value that I'm going to get out of it. Take a cup of coffee, for example. We're all kind of happy to pay $5-6 for a cup of coffee, and it's done in 20 minutes. So it's a different way of kind of looking at it and how much longevity you're going to get out of something. This, I think, is a slightly more concerning thing, which is also hobby related. I think with everything that's happened in the North Island this week, I can see everything skyrocketing again really, really quickly. The roads are damaged, flights aren't going the same way, so transport's going to be significantly increased. So I can foresee very quickly that we're going to be getting notifications from couriers and freight companies saying everything's flying up, which then has to be passed on for the best part. So I think that is a concern. I can't really talk much about the importation costs because I don't import, but I do know that the weight of water is very expensive to get it into the country, which is where a lot of the costs come into it as well. I'm also aware that people are willing to pay for stuff if they want it. New Papuki Aquarium Centre is selling Ultim Angels for, I think it's $4.50 a pop. And to me, if you want those fish and you have never had that opportunity to have those fish and they're what you want, you'll pay that money if you got that money. So, yeah, like for me, that's not a fish that I want. That's not a fish that I'm interested in. So I'm not going to pay that. But if it was my bucket list and I had that money, I wouldn't have too much of an issue paying that for the fish that I want. If that makes sense. Yeah. And yep, power costs have gone up significantly. Spare thought for the people in the UK. I know that a lot of shops over there have gone from $1,000 a month for their power to $4,000 or $5,000 a month for the power and having to close down. I think we look at power, say 20 years ago, and we had 2 or 3 things plugged in the entire time. Now we look at the amount of plugs that we've got through our houses and how many multi-plugs we've got, and everything takes electricity, so everything is drawing. So it's a combination in general. But I think if you want to do something, you'll find a way of doing it as an overall thing. If you love keeping fish enough, you'll put that money into doing it. If you like collecting stamps, you'll put that money into doing it. That if that's your hobby and that's your interest and that's your passion, if you want to breed birds, for example, you'll put the aviaries out in your backyard and you'll pay for what you need to do it. It's just part and parcel of what it is. Yeah. Part and parcel of being involved in a hobby. You'll put that money into it if that's what you want to be doing. Yep, agree. Definitely need to look at sustainable options. I think that comes down to people breeding more fish, but you also need to get new blood stock coming through them, and different options coming through. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to doing that sort of stuff. I don't disagree with you. Sustainable options is definitely where we need to be. I question if a shop was to say all of our live fish have come from a breeder or a not imported, what people would think, or maybe people don't realise how many of the fish that fish shops stock are imported. That might change the mindset on that as well. So there's a few bits and pieces that are lots of moving parts and lots of things going on when it comes to that as well. But I do agree it needs to be sustainable. But it also needs to be economically viable from a shop's or a reselling point of view. So, lots of moving parts. Yeah. Water rates, yeah. And again, there's lots of moving parts when it comes to this. I agree, and if we don't sustain what we've got, we're going to lose stuff. Things like celestial pearl danios is a prime example. Blue pinat pleco is another example. L134 leopard frog plex are another example. These fish were all here, and they're just either gone missing, they've gotten lost, or they're just in 1 or 2 people's hands, and they're not willing to move some on now. So once they're gone, and that's kind of how that works. It's just unfortunate. Sometimes things can't be brought in, and I don't know how the hobby's moving. I don't know how the hobby's moving globally. There might come a time where PETA and stuff like that get involved and say the fish keeping hobby is inhumane, keeping too many fish in a small piece of glass box or whatever, and they're going to crack down on it, and that might be us, or no more exports out of whatever regions we're exporting. So all of a sudden 3 dozen types of fish disappear off every single list, and then what do we do then? So there's lots going on there, and it's just there's lots of moving parts, and no one can really tell the future. But I think sustainable breeding is definitely important for sure. Yeah. So and you're right. People need to understand how that works as well, and having to cull off bad fish is an unfortunate thing, but it's part and parcel of what you have to do. So touch wood. I'm touching plenty of wood.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's your general thoughts of how it's working over where you are, John?
Well, one thing I have seen over the last maybe 8 to 10 months is people with large, like maybe 100+ gallon fish tanks, are closing them down because of the running costs. A lot of fish rooms have shut down as well, which is quite sad. People that have been in the hobby for a long, long time are walking away because they just can't maintain it anymore.
Yep. And there's obviously ways you can lower things like that. LEDs have made a massive difference. They're nowhere near as power hungry as what like tube lights are. And if you're not growing plant, in theory, you don't need lights. Set up a large air pump running sponge filters all the way through, potentially cheaper than running power filters all the way through. Like there's ways you can do things, insulating walls and stuff like that before you're putting tanks in. Minimizes what happens, but it doesn't eliminate it all.
Yeah. We do have sustainable power, but it's not subsidised to my knowledge. You get your energy and what's left gets sold back to the grid, but there's no incentive. It's really, really expensive to install it, and there's no help to install it. You've got to pay for it all up front yourself, which is a shame. A lot of the newer houses that are getting built have all got it built in, but that's about
it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at Cam's comment.
Yeah, so I had a wee giggle at that. Yeah. Yep, we might not have the heat stuff.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting topic, and there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to all of that. So, as an expense, it just is part and parcel. There's definitely more expensive hobbies that we could be playing around with, for sure. And there's clearly more cheaper hobbies that we could be playing around with. It just depends on whether you want to be keeping fish and how much you enjoy it and what you get out of it. It's a cost versus
for a lot of people as well. They live within their means when it comes to fish keeping.
Yeah.
So if you can't, if sadly it's too expensive to run multiple aquariums, you won't. You'll enjoy the one that you've got, or the two, and that'll be it. You won't look for more. But some people throw everything they've got at it, and they've got 15, 20 aquariums.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But no television.
Yeah. I mean, you can get enjoyment out of a aquarium hobby and only have one aquarium. Like it's
exactly.
You don't need to go to extremes and have a gazillion of them, although that's kind of cool. You don't need to.
Yeah, Shelly, we could get our kids involved, and they could just be cycling and creating electric through dynamos on their bikes and powering all our aquariums. That could be another way of doing it.
Yeah. Yes, this is a conversation that I have had before. This is a conversation that Cam and I have had before. This is a conversation that I do not have an answer to right now at this very moment. What's going to happen when they remove plastic bags to move fish around in? Because arguably, plastic bags have been how the hobby has managed to explode. In theory, because you've got to hold the water somehow, and that was the easiest way of doing it. So, that is a question I don't have the answer to. And as Cam said, buckets will work fine. But how do you keep buckets warm? Cold water fish, no big deal. When it comes to tropical fish, how are we going to keep the buckets warm to move them around? Obviously, you've got chiller trucks. Do we have warmer trucks? Can you get warming compartments on airplanes? Does it then become worthwhile to do so? Yeah, definitely something that's crossed my mind. Plastic bags, how to work plastic bags. Not sure. I don't totally disagree with buckets. I just think buckets are flawed for those reasons. But definitely, probably the most logical answer to come through would be putting them in buckets. Bucket in a box with a heat pack. So you're talking like a square bucket in a cardboard box with a heat pack on top. That could be an option. For some reason, I had in my mind a heat pack goes into the bucket itself, floating on top somehow. But yeah, bucket with a box is probably the option. Wonder if transporting in a bucket would cause damage to the fish, because the bag's obviously a little bit more flexible and they move around a bit with the flow of the water, whereas buckets are quite solid. And if they would bang on and cause issues with the fish, possibly. You definitely get a bit of oxygen exchange with a bucket that's got more surface area for that, as opposed to a bag which is quite small. So that will be a positive on that side of it. But yeah, I'm not sure of the answer. I don't really have an answer for that. Fish bins, buckets are probably there. I guess the likes of the chip pallet systems, get a whole stack of buckets, return them back to the supplier for some way or another. Yeah. Thoughts on that, John?
I think buckets is definitely the way. I mean, you get square buckets that have got clips, and I mean, from a safety point of view, they'll be fine. And a heat pack underneath the bucket inside the box. I've bought coral that way before.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not sure why in the conversations I've had or in the thought patterns I've had, often these conversations are with Cam, bucket in a box with a heat pack. I'm not sure why that hadn't crossed my mind. Then you might have the issue of the heat getting through that plastic lid, possible. But yeah, that would be probably the most logical one. Yeah, they are still plastic, but on the theory of that, if you're going to be removing plastic buckets, for example, how then are you going to move paint around? Click-clack buckets, lunch containers, lunch boxes, storage containers are all plastic as well.
Yeah. They're more reusable as well.
Yeah. So I totally understand that theory. Like, I'm looking outside right here, right behind the camera, and my cardboard bin is plastic. So where do you draw the line? Like, that's not perishable. And it can be sustained and used for 15, 20, 30 years. So is that acceptable? Buckets can be used over and over again. So
could even come to the point where it's seasonal shipping as well.
Yeah. I think with a lot of stuff, the key contributor is the water. Like, you can use a lot of containers that'll store stuff just fine that aren't plastic, but water makes them mushy, and that's where the issue is for fish keeping. Yeah, how do you get around that water thing? Like the packaging that we're using now for our plants, if I put the plants just inside the container, they just dried out, went mushy, everything got broken. It wasn't going to work, so they had to go inside some sort of container before they went in there. So yeah, the water is the huge contributor. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely possible. Yeah, but you can get pretty small containers. I know we've got some small containers in our house that are about yay big, little click-clack ones, so that's all possible. Yeah. Oh, I like that idea. I do like that idea. And I'm not going to justify your comment with an answer, Cam, by the way. I'm just ignoring it and letting it go by. I think the problem with something like that is minimum order quantity would be one thing. I know I'm just spitballing here that I wouldn't even think that as a that as an industry as a whole, we would be able to keep up with what a company like that would need as a minimum order. And I'm talking as a whole industry as a whole.
I'm sure
You'll need to
IKEA's
get-
got something in the pipelines.
What's that, sorry?
I'm sure IKEA's probably got something in the pipelines.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that logic and how that would work quite well. But I don't know if that would work efficiently as an industry, if we'd be able to continue to maintain that in all honesty. If they could find manufacture some sort of a container of whatever size they want that they could then use for other aspects, that would make absolute sense. But yeah, as an industry, I don't think that we could probably maintain that amount or required amount to push through. In saying that, we go through a heck of a lot of plastic bags each day. My rubbish bin, when I get my orders come in, 3 or 4 boxes of fish from import, 120 litre rubbish bin gets filled up with plastic bags pretty quickly. So maybe we do. Maybe I'm underestimating the amount of plastic bags, the amount of containers that we can push through the industry in one go. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah, and that's it as well. And you're totally right. Who's going to be willing to pay an extra $30 for 5? It'll be more than that, but you know what I mean. For that on top of the shipping costs and things like that. So and that's where like the chip containers for pallets work. So from my understanding, John's disappeared. The blue pallets business pays them to get delivered, and then when the truck driver comes back, takes them away, you get credited for that. So that would be a way that would work. But you'd have to get onboarding with a lot of companies at the same time. So, for example, myself, Aquarium Project, who else sends fish around, Hollywood Fish Farm, makes some pet supplies, Brewwater Aquatics, so there's 5 off the top of my head. All of them would have to jump on board and say, yeah, we're going to get on this together. And then you'd be like your sort of core start, and then you'd have to get more people coming in to get involved in it. So this year, not saying it's impossible, definitely a lot of moving parts, a lot of thinking to make that sort of scenario work. And I know that this is something that Cameron and I have spoken about multiple times as well. So yeah. So yeah, lots of great conversations coming through here. Yeah. I don't entirely believe that the war on bags should just stop at the supermarket ones, because look at, say, the meat department of a supermarket, all of that stuff is wrapped in plastic film as well that just gets thrown away. I think they've missed the mark on that sort of thing. And also I reckon the supermarkets are rubbing their hands together, because they used to give shopping bags away for free, and now they're charging us 10 cents a pop every time we forget our ones. So they've profited on that decision big time. But yeah, I think there needs to be a little bit more, but I do kind of understand where you're going with that. But there's definitely other bits of plastic that can be taken away and changed around and stuff like that, for sure. Yeah.
I think I'm going to need to head off now, Cam. I'm
Okay,
getting
no worries.
some of the kids.
Cool.
But yeah, I'll speak to you later on once I've got taking care of the kids. So maybe about an hour. I'll be back in about an hour. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yep, no,
take care.
That's that. And yep, Cameron, you have made a very good point. We are a very small industry, and we're even smaller here in New Zealand. And something like CKM or Fluval or whatever, they have to be the ones that need to make the difference. They need to be the ones that need to change the mindset. Any of the bigger companies coming along doing that, But I don't hold my breath for some of the bigger companies doing that. I think a lot of the time they are talking about doing something sustainable. I question the morals behind it, whether it's going to save them money or not. But yeah, we're too small here in New Zealand to make a big difference on anything. And I listed off five fish shops just before. That's just fish shops. That's not even taking into account pet shops, chain stores. Even if the 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 local fish shops in New Zealand all banded together and tried to make something work, it's probably still not even big enough to make any difference and get even more people on board as well. So there's lots of questions and not a lot of answers. Yeah. Yep. And so it's true. Yeah, we've tried and kind of get conversations going with producers for different things. So yeah, at the end of the day, business, it all comes down to money, unfortunately. And if you're not spending enough money, or it's going to cost someone too much money and you're not going to get the money back in return, then it's it's unfortunate. That's kind of how it works. So and being that this industry is so small, so much of the stuff we do is adapted from some other industry. Like, for how many years do people send aquatic plants and take plastic takeaway containers? Because we had to adapt from some other industry to make it work. And because we're just not big enough. There's not enough money being spent. There's not enough people doing it to make it work. So it's unfortunate, but that's kind of how that is, really. So yeah, this has been actually a really good conversation. It's nice to have been talking to someone other than the one or two people that are involved in the industry, and getting some hobbyist input on how we can possibly change this. I'm definitely going to watch over this again later on today and take some notes out of it and maybe some ideas, and I'll probably end up bouncing ideas off Cam again, because that's what we do, and trying to get some other options, some other solutions. The bucket with a heat pack in a cardboard box makes sense. That'd also eliminate the polystyrene running through, which is a massive bugbear for me as well. The amount of poly boxes that must be being sent around is ludicrous. There's got to be another solution for that as well. So that's something fantastic may have come out of that, or it might just be another dead end. So popcorn is a good sustainable box filler. Popcorn. I've never thought of using popcorn. Popcorn. I don't really play around with that. Feed it to the pigs, yeah. I've never found newspaper all that good for insulating. Great for filling up spaces, but I've never found it that good for insulating. Unfortunately, I found for when sending frozen foods that bubble wrap works better than paper. It just seems to hold that temperature in a bit nicer, which is unfortunate because bubble wrap's a pain. We don't buy bubble wrap. I won't buy bubble wrap. I prefer to wrap everything in paper where I can. The only times we'll send stuff in bubble wrap is if one of our suppliers has sent the bubble wrap. Instead of us throwing it out, we'll reuse it. I think it's better to get at least another cycle out of it before it gets thrown out if we possibly can. But for the best part, we do not use bubble wrap. I was playing around with like a cardboard corrugate type of thing. I know a lot of hot sauce manufacturers send it with that, but I didn't quite seem to think that was going to work very well either. And we don't send too much glass for it to be too big of a deal. So even that, like, what do you put in with packaging and stuff like that as well? So shredded paper works pretty well for packaging if you can get hold of it, but it's a little bit spendy. Unfortunately, bubble wrap is the cheapest option, but like I said, we don't use it unless we get given it or get it sent to us. We'll just continue to same with whatever we can use. Yeah. Hey Braxton, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, so the corrugated cardboard one that I had has the paper wrap on it as well, but for the life of me, I couldn't work out how it was doing any work on it because it didn't kind of lift itself or anything like that. It just sort of wrapped around it, so I wasn't quite sure. So I bought it about 2 years ago, and I've only used it several times. So it might be something we try and use a little bit more. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's a huge topic, and I think it's one that New Zealanders in general are really, really passionate about. And I also think it's one that the aquarium hobbyists are really passionate about because we're all aware that our fish come from water, and plastic getting into water isn't so good. So, like, I think we're all kind of aware. And as soon as you start buying lots of quantities of fish, you get all these plastic bags everywhere or polystyrene boxes, and you can say, well, how are we going to use these? What are we going to do with them? So, I think it is definitely, we're in a little small niche hobby that is very, very passionate and considerate of what we're doing when it comes to these. So, yeah, we'll see how we go. Fish in a can? Do you mean like eating fish in a can? Yeah, it doesn't take long to sort of rack up the amount of bubble wrap. So, yeah, it's easy enough to get hold of it. I'm not certain if, like, some of the supermarkets that do the soft plastic recycling, if they take that or not. But yeah, it's just one of those things. All right, it's been very riveting. I'm kind of out of ideas when it comes to any more conversation on this. I'll definitely be re-watching this and taking some things out of it, and maybe even get a select few of you, like I have multiple times before. I might send a few things around, trial some things, and see how we go. But yeah, for now it might be again looking at bucket options and box options. So yeah. Talking about my lush bed. I haven't done anything with my lush bed for a long time. I haven't even oiled it for a while. I'd like to hope that buckets could be an option. And then, like, I've sent some buckets of fish up to Auckland, and you can take it into one of the shops in Auckland and you get your money refunded for it, or go into the shops from Auckland and pick up some more fish. It's a really fantastic idea. It's just about getting them buy-in. So, definitely an option. Definitely an option. Send me free stuff. Done. I'll send you free stuff. Okay, so I'm quite happy to continue to talk. I've got another 45 minutes so before I have to open the shop. But if we're just going to be ranting about nothing, maybe not so much. Cool. Yeah, I knew you'd be down for saying if we can sort something out. Maybe we need to look at that option again. Like I said, I've spoken to several other aquarium store owners, fish shop owners, what do you want to call them, and most of them are in the same mindset that it is a problem, but there's no real solution at the moment. So maybe if half a dozen of us do band together and try and work something out, then it might be the beginning of a movement to try and get rid of them, the plastic bags. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not sure, but we'll see how we go. Anything cool on the lists? They all come out today, so I haven't really had a look recently. I haven't needed to buy any fish. I'm getting to a point where I do need to buy some fish very soon. I haven't looked yet. I haven't opened my emails. I'll have a look when the emails come out. I don't even know if they're sending at the moment. I'm not sure. At least one of the suppliers, I believe, has been impacted pretty heavily with what's going on. We'll see. I'm not sure either whether or not there's going to be fish coming in anytime soon, and how that's what the storm and everything is going to mean for the suppliers. So I don't want to talk out of place, but like I said, I know one's been hit with it relatively badly. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, fish lists come out this afternoon or this morning. possibly my emails at the moment. So yeah. Yeah. So I guess that'll be it. Yeah, I'll leave it with it. I hope everybody has a really good weekend. If you are up north, yeah. Really? Fancy Trophius. Do you know what sort of Trophius by any chance? That'll be cool. Hopefully iCola, because iCola are really cool. Yeah, anyway, so yeah. If you're up north, please, everyone's thinking of you. If there's anything I can do down here, please fire away. And yeah, cardboard milk containers. Ooh. That's one from the floor. Cardboard milk containers. I guess if the milk can stay inside the cardboard, that's okay. I want to say that they're probably lined with plastic, some description. But that is definitely worth thinking about. Cardboard milk containers. Never thought of that. Yeah, if anyone's got any other thoughts on things that hold liquid that can potentially be sustainable and potentially hold fish in them, please feel free to send me a message on Facebook or even in the chats or whatever. Yeah, that could work. But like I said, yeah, lined with plastic or foil. Definitely an option. Hey, everybody. Thank you very much. Much appreciate everybody watching and being involved with us. Unfortunately, obviously the live food didn't quite go as to plan, but we'll make sure we get this one up and running again. So yeah, I would assume that if it's human safe because it can be consumed, that it would make it fish safe. You wouldn't think that food safe for milk would make it not fish safe, if that makes sense. But definitely something worth looking into. All right, so I'm going to disappear. Have a good one, team. Happy fish keeping. Catch you later.